The war in eastern Ukraine has entered a new and brutal phase, with the city of Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region becoming the epicenter of one of the most intense battles of the year. Russian military units, bolstered by newly arrived North Korean troops estimated at 5,000 personnel according to Western intelligence assessments, are pressing forward along multiple axes in Donetsk and Kharkiv Oblast. Russian forces have significantly escalated their offensive operations, focusing their efforts on capturing Pokrovsk and the nearby city of Dobropilya. For Moscow, the capture of Pokrovsk is a paramount strategic objective. It is viewed as the gateway to securing full control over the entirety of Donetsk Oblast, a long-held Kremlin war aim. Furthermore, Pokrovsk serves as a crucial logistical hub that, if captured, would provide a vital link for Russian forces pushing toward the Dnipro River corridor, potentially splitting Ukrainian defenses. Russian military reports claim that their troops are methodically tightening their grip on the city, advancing through its industrial zones and key rail districts. Satellite imagery appears to corroborate some of these claims, showing Russian advances within the city limits. Moscow has asserted that its forces are successfully encircling and destroying surrounded Ukrainian formation, employing powerful FAB-500 glide bombs to obliterate entrenched positions. Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War have confirmed the presence of intense fighting inside Pokrovsk and have warned that the city is at great risk of falling, drawing grim parallels to the devastating battle and eventual loss of Avdiivka earlier in the conflict. The battle for Pokrovsk now accounts for an estimated 30% of all hostilities along the entire front line, highlighting its critical importance. On the Ukrainian side, the situation is described as exceedingly difficult. President Volodymyr Zelensky has acknowledged the severity of the fighting, but has publicly maintained that Russian forces have achieved no success and that Ukrainian defenders are holding their ground, launching counterattacks where possible. Ukrainian military statements report that reinforcement and additional equipment have been rushed to the area to bolster the city's defense. In one reported engagement, Ukraine's 7th Rapid Response Corps of the Air Assault Force claimed to have repelled a Russian attempt to sever the vital supply route between Pokrovsk and the nearby town of Rodensky, reportedly killing 19 Russian soldiers in the process. Despite these pockets of determined resistance, the overall picture is one of a desperate last stand, with Ukrainian troops fighting for survival against a numerically and technologically superior adversary to prevent the collapse of the entire Eastern Front. In an attempt to disrupt Russian advances and regain initiative, Ukrainian forces have undertaken high-risk special operation, though with devastating consequences. A particularly catastrophic incident involved a bold air-mobile insurgent near Pokrovsk, conducted by the Main Directorate of Intelligence (GUR). The operation utilized U.S.-supplied UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters to deploy special forces deep into the contested area. However, the mission appears to have ended in disaster, with multiple reports emerging of significant losses among the elite Ukrainian commandos and at least one of the Black Hawk helicopters being downed. This failed operation underscores the immense risk involved in such missions and highlights the growing, albeit covert, integration of NATO-supplied platforms and Western involvement within Ukraine's intelligence and special operation framework. The use of American helicopters in such a direct combat role raises significant strategic and political questions about the extent of Western engagement in the conflict. Russian forces have been swift to capitalize on any Ukrainian concentration of troops. In a separate incident, the Russian Aerospace Force successfully targeted and destroyed the temporary barracks of a Ukrainian National Guard Special Forces brigade located in the village of Rodinskoye, not far from Pokrovsk, using powerful FAB-500 bombs. Another devastating blow was dealt by a single Russian Iskander missile strikes on a Ukrainian forward base in northern Ukraine, just kilometers from the border. The precision and power of the strike was such that it transformed the entire defensive structure into what was described as a complete dead zone, demonstrating Russia's ability to deliver high-velocity, precision demolitions of fortified positions. These successful Russian strikes, coupled with the disastrous outcome of the GUR operation, paint a grim picture of the challenges facing Ukrainian forces as they struggle to counter Russia's overwhelming firepower and adapt to the increasingly lethal battlefield environment. The immense pressure on the front line is creating significant cracks in Ukrainian morale and fueling a rare wave of internal dissent directed at the country's leadership. Harrowing testimonies have emerged from Ukrainian prisoners of war captured in the sectors of Kramatorsk and Pokrovsk. In interviews with Russian media, these soldiers described dire conditions, stating they were left starving without adequate ammunition or medical supplies, and ultimately abandoned by their commanders. One soldier's words, "We had no food, no ammo, we surrendered to live," have resonated widely, painting a picture of desperation. All the soldiers made even more serious allegations of corruption, claiming that bribery was rampant and that executions were carried out within Ukrainian ranks. This stark reality on the ground stands in sharp contrast to the optimistic rhetoric from Kyiv, where President Zelensky continues to announce the production of new Ukrainian missiles and drones. The growing gap between official pronouncement and the live experience of soldiers has not gone unnoticed within Ukraine's political circles. For the first time, prominent lawmakers are publicly challenging the government's narrative. Member of Parliament Maryana Bezuglaya and former MP Igor Mozishchuk have both accused Zelensky of misrepresenting the true state of affairs on the battlefield. They allege that official military briefings are detached from reality and that defense have, in fact, collapsed in several parts of eastern Ukraine. This internal backlash has been amplified by social media, where a viral video of a Ukrainian soldier from Pokrovsk sparked outrage. The soldier accused the government in Kyiv of abandoning the city and its defenders, sending troops into what he called pointless offensives. The logistical and morale crisis is further underscored by the closure of the key railway hub in the nearby city of Kramatorsk due to intensified Russian strikes, severely hampering Ukraine's ability to supply its troops in the Donbass. In the face of a potential military collapse in the east, Ukraine is launching an ambitious and historic pivot in its economic and defense strategy, aiming to transform itself from an aid recipient into a self-sustaining arms exporter. President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced a new controlled export policy, a plan designed to turn Ukraine's battlefield-tested technological innovations into a source of global trade and a sustainable funding mechanism for its own defense. A key part of this strategy involves the establishment of two export capitals in Berlin and Copenhagen. These offices will be tasked with selling Ukrainian-made weapons directly to European partners. Kyiv has set an aggressive timeline with plans to begin exporting drones and missiles as early as November 2025, while simultaneously expanding defense technology partnership with companies across the United States and Europe. This initiative is already attracting significant attention from the international financial community. Western venture capital has begun to pour into Ukraine's burgeoning defense tech startup, signaling a growing investor confidence in a war-driven innovation boom that has the potential to reshape the global arms market. While this long-term economic strategy is being put into motion, diplomatic efforts to find an end to the conflict continue, albeit with uncertain prospect. Reports have surfaced that Kyiv and its European allies are working on a 12-point peace framework. According to sources cited by Bloomberg, this potential plan would cover crucial issues such as the return of Ukrainian children forcibly taken to Russia, comprehensive prisoners exchange, war reparations from Moscow, and robust long-term security guarantees for Ukraine. However, President Zelensky himself has tempered expectation, stating in a recent report from Ukrinform that he has not yet seen a definitive or finalized European peace plan, indicating that these discussions are still in a preliminary stage. This dual approach, combining a desperate military defense with a forward-looking economic and diplomatic strategy, illustrates a nation fighting for its immediate survival while simultaneously planning for a future where it can secure its own sovereignty and prosperity. If you have made it this far, congratulations. You have unlocked the truth. I want to ask you a quick question though. With reports of severe logistical and morale issue among Ukrainian frontline units and the arrival of North Korean troops to aid Russia, do you believe the key to ending this conflict will never surface? Because neither sides wants to admit defeat due to having to face historical shame? And why? Join the debate. We want to hear your insightful opinion on where this is all heading in our community. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video, hit the notification bell, and most importantly, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.